Invisible chains, how control works inside the Supermax before anything else happens inside a Supermax prison. Something far more powerful arrives first: control. Not the loud kind, not the kind you see in movies, not chains, not shouting, not officers running through hallways. The real control inside a Supermax is silent. It lives in the routines, in the timing of each door, in the rules that never bend, in the way every movement has already been planned before the inmate even wakes up. A Supermax isn't just a building. It's a system designed to hold the highest risk inmates in America using something stronger than force: total structure. Inside these walls, inmates spend nearly every hour alone. Their meals slide through a slot. Their showers are scheduled. Their steps are counted. Their voices echo back at them through concrete and steel. But the surprising thing? Most of the control doesn't come from physical restraints at all. It comes from patterns, repeated, precise, predictable. A door that opens at the same second every day. A light that switches on before sunrise. A tray that arrives without eye contact. A voice on the intercom that never shows emotion. To outsiders, it looks simple. To officers, it's a system. To inmates, it's invisible chains. Chains that shape the mind long before they ever touch the wrist. People imagine Supermax prisons as violent, chaotic, dangerous. But the truth is the opposite. Supermax facilities stay safe because almost nothing is left to chance. Every hallway, every camera, every movement, every minute has a purpose. And once you step inside, you understand quickly, this place doesn't break people through force. It breaks them through control. Welcome to the world where silence is a tool, where routine is power, where freedom shrinks into a cell barely bigger than a closet, where the chain the world can't see is the one that keeps everything working. This is a story of how control works inside the Supermax, not from the outside looking in, but from the inside looking out. The first 24 hours, entering a world built on control. The moment an inmate enters a Supermax prison, the rules of the outside world disappear. There is no noise, no crowd, no open space, just the sound of one door closing and another door opening. Supermax prisons are designed so that no inmate ever walks freely. Every step is guided. Every moment is supervised. Every movement is broken into small, controlled pieces. And it all begins the second the transport vehicle stops at the gate. The arrival, silence before the storm inside the vehicle. The air is tense. Even inmates who have spent years in other prisons feel something different here. There's no yelling from other inmates. No officers moving quickly. No activity around the yard. The Supermax looks almost empty from the outside. But it's not empty. It's simply quiet by design. Officers move with slow, steady discipline. Nobody rushes. Nobody hesitates. They've done this thousands of times. The door opens. An officer gives one instruction: exit. One at a time. That's it. No long speech. No raised voice. The control begins with tone. The walk inside. No choice is allowed. Most prisons allow inmates to walk through open areas or long corridors with groups. Supermax does not. Inside a Supermax, the route is straight, narrow, empty. Controlled inmates walk in single file. Every corner has a camera pointed directly at the hallway. Doors open and close automatically, timed by officers in a secure control booth. The inmate is not just walking. He is being escorted by the system. At each door, the inmate waits. He doesn't move until the door buzzes. When the door shuts behind him, the next door opens. It feels like passing through checkpoints, not in a building, but through layers of control. The intake cell, the first real shock. Most inmates expect to meet officers. Fill out forms, talk to staff. Not here, inside a Supermax. The intake cell is the first reminder that this place follows different rules. The cell is small. Concrete walls, a steel bed frame, a sink and toilet molded from one piece of metal, a door with a slot for food and cuffs. Inmates wait here while staff review their file, not outside, not at a table, but inside the cell. This establishes something important. In a Supermax, the inmate does not come to the system. The system comes to the inmate. Even simple tasks happen through the door. Identification, fingerprint verification, medical questions, clothing distribution orientation, paperwork, everything is handed through the slot. Face-to-face interaction is rare. And when it happens, an officer is never alone. Property and clothing. Everything controlled in a Supermax. Inmates cannot keep most personal items. Only basic necessities are allowed. Officers give a standard uniform, state-issued shoes, hygiene items, bedding, that's it. No extra clothing. No photos at first. No books unless approved. No incoming items until review. It's not punishment, it's security. The prison must limit anything that could be used to hide, block, or manipulate. Even the mattress and blankets are designed to be tear-resistant. The first rules, simple but strict. A staff member reads the first set of rules. Not loudly, not with emotion, just clearly. Rules like stand at the back of your cell when doors open. Hands visible at all times during escort. No communication between cells. Lights out at assigned hours. Follow orders without delay. These rules seem simple, but they're the foundation of Supermax control. The fewer decisions an inmate makes, the fewer opportunities there are for conflict. The move to the permanent cell when the time comes to move to their assigned cell. The escort is precise. Hands cuffed, waist chain, secured ankles, shackled, 2 officers. On each side, 1 officer, walking behind, no speaking. No sudden movement. No side-to-side walking. Just a slow, steady pace through empty hallways. Cells here are arranged so that inmates rarely see one another. Most doors face walls or corners. Glass windows are small and positioned high. The inmate arrives at his new cell. The door opens only enough for him to enter. Officers watch from a safe angle. When the door closes, the lock echoes through concrete. And that sound, loud, sharp, final, tells the inmate this is a place where control becomes your new reality. The first night, the mind begins to adjust inside the cell. There is nothing to distract the mind. No television. No people walking by. No noise except distant doors and occasional announcements. Most inmates sit on the bed and stare at the walls. Try to understand what Supermax really means. For many, the first night is quiet. Too quiet. Their thoughts become louder. Their heartbeat too noticeable. Their breathing too sharp. The system knows this. It is part of how Supermax works. The silence itself becomes a form of control. The invisible chains start here in the first 24 hours. The inmate sees almost no physical chains, yet he feels controlled in a way he has never felt before. The timing of doors, the quiet voices, the predictable movements, the restricted choices, the isolation, the routines, already forming these are the invisible chains. Chains that do not break the body. Chains that shape the mind. Chains that define life inside the most controlled prisons in America. And this is only the beginning. The routine that never breaks inside a Supermax prison, the most powerful form of control, is not the steel doors, the cameras, or the restraints. It's the routine. A routine so strict, so repetitive, and so predictable that every hour feels like it was copied from the day before. This is not accidental. This is a system working exactly as designed. Because when routine controls a day, nothing else can. Morning begins before the inmate does in a Supermax. The day does not start with an alarm. It starts with lights. At the exact same time every morning, the bright overhead light snaps on. No sunrise. No natural rhythm, just the same artificial light, at the same intensity, at the same moment, every single day. There is no choice to sleep longer, no chance to ignore the morning. The system decides when the day begins. This is the first reminder. Your time belongs to the routine now. Breakfast through the slot shortly after the lights come on. An officer stops at every cell door. No conversation, no eye contact for long. Just a tray sliding through the narrow slot and a quiet breakfast. The tray contains the same type of meal inmates get daily. Oatmeal or grits, fruit or bread. Sometimes eggs, a carton of milk. There is no cafeteria. No open space. Every meal is eaten alone inside a concrete box. The officer moves down the hall smoothly, tray after tray, like a machine completing a task. The inmate hears the cart rolling away before he even finishes eating. Tear checks. Eyes always watching every hour, officers walk past the cells for tier checks. They walk steady, hands behind their back, looking in through each window, not to intimidate, not to start trouble, just to observe. Supermax prisons rely on constant observation instead of constant force. If something seems off, unusual movement, silence, pacing, or anything out of pattern, staff notice immediately. These checks are short, but they matter. They remind the inmate of something important. You are never unseen inside a Supermax. Showers. One at a time. Never alone showers in a Supermax do not happen in groups. There are no open rooms. No lines of men waiting with towels. Every shower is a controlled movement. When it's the inmate's turn, cuffs go on, the cell door opens. He steps into a small shower stall. The door locks. Behind him, water runs for a time period. Officers stand nearby. When time is up, he steps back out, gets restrained again, and returns to the cell. The process is quiet, consistent, and always the same. Shower time isn't about hygiene alone. It's about moving without disrupting the system. Recreation. A different kind of yard. People imagine a prison yard with dozens of inmates walking around. But in a Supermax, recreation is alone. Every inmate is taken to a small outdoor pen, usually concrete walls, open sky, maybe a pull-up bar, and spend his recreation time in isolation. Some walk in circles. Some stretch or exercise. Some simply stand and breathe fresh air for the first time that day. There's no conversation, no group activity, no contact. Even outside, control stays with the routine. The power of predictability. Every activity happens on a schedule. Lights at the same time, meals at the same time, showers on assigned days, rec at the same hour, medication at regular intervals, tier checks always on the hour. Nothing changes. Almost nothing ever shifts. This predictability isn't accidental. Supermax prisons remove uncertainty because uncertainty creates stress, conflict, and risk. By eliminating surprises, the prison creates stability, and that stability becomes a form of invisible control. The mind adjusts to the pattern at first. Inmates count the minutes. They stare at walls. They listen for footsteps. They memorize the sound of keys, carts, and door buzzers. After weeks, the routine starts to shape them. They wait before the lights come on. They know the officer's footsteps by sound. They eat meals without checking the tray. They wait at the door seconds before it clicks. They can predict the day with almost perfect accuracy. This adjustment isn't forced. It happens naturally. When a routine never changes, the mind accepts it as the new normal. These are the invisible chains tightening, not painful, not physical, but powerful. Even time moves differently in a Supermax. Days blend together. Monday feels like Wednesday. Friday feels like Sunday. Everything repeats. There are no yard conversations, no job assignments, no classes, no social groups, no big movements. Life becomes a cycle of cell shower rec, cell meal tier check. For some, this structure brings calm. For others, it feels like sinking into stillness that never ends. But for everyone, it becomes a core of their life. The system doesn't bend. You do by the end of the first month. Almost every inmate adapts. Not because they want to, not because they agree with the rules, but because the system leaves no room for anything else. The routine molds behavior. The silence shapes thoughts. The predictability becomes control. This is how Supermax prisons maintain order without chaos. They make the routine stronger than the inmate, stronger than resistance, stronger than time. These are the invisible chains, the ones that don't break bodies but wrap around the days, the hours, and the mind. The building that thinks for itself from the outside. A Supermax prison looks like a big, solid block of concrete and steel. But on the inside, it works more like a machine. Every hallway, every door, every camera, every window has a purpose. Nothing is random. Nothing is just there. The building itself is designed to control people, not just by keeping them inside, but by deciding what they see, where they walk, what they hear, and how they move. In a normal prison, officers control the space. In a Supermax, the space controls everyone. The control room, the brain of the Supermax at the center of Supermax, is a room most inmates never see. The control center. From here, Officers can open and close doors, watch every camera, listen to audio from different areas, control lights, and intercoms, trigger alarms, track movement, request large screens, show live feeds from inside the prison, hallways, rec pens, entries, sometimes even inside common areas. The officer in this room doesn't walk the tier. They don't yell across hallways. They rarely see inmates in person, but they know where everyone is at all times. If someone presses an emergency button, they see it. If someone moves when they shouldn't, they see it. If an officer needs backup, they see it. In a way, this room is like the brain of the Supermax. The body is concrete and steel, but the control center is what makes it think. Doors that never open by accident in regular prisons. Officers often use keys to open doors. In a Supermax, almost every door is electronic. They don't open with a key turning in a lock. They open with a button, a switch, or a command in the control room. This allows the prison to control doors from a distance. No one can force them open. No one can fake a key. No one can rush an officer holding a door. Every door is recorded, time-stamped, logged in the system. If something happens at 3:16 p.m., they can see exactly which door opened at 3:15 p.m. This is part of the invisible chain system. Movement is not just controlled, it is tracked. Hallways designed to limit contact. If you look at a map of a Supermax, you will notice something strange. There are almost no big open hallways. Instead, you see short corridors, sharp corners, controlled intersections, gates between sections. This is on purpose. The layout makes it hard for big groups to form, people to move freely, anyone to get from one area to another without being seen, even if two inmates are taken out at similar times. The design of the building makes sure they rarely pass each other. Every path is chosen in a way that avoids surprise contact. In other words, the building is built to say no before anyone even tries something. Cells that face walls, not people in most general population prisons. Cells often face each other across a tier. In Supermax, many cells are arranged so they don't have a direct view of other cells. Some face a blank wall, some face a narrow hallway, some have windows too small to see very far. This layout reduces communication. If you can't see many people, you can't easily signal pass signs, study their routine plans, something together. It keeps inmates in their own small world. The building quietly says, stay in your space. Sound control. Even noise becomes a tool inside a Supermax. Even sound is part control. The walls are thick. Doors are heavy. Hallways are built to mute echoes. This means yelling doesn't travel far, banging on doors doesn't reach many cells, conversations are hard to spread in some parts. You can barely hear if someone is talking a few cells away. At first, this quiet feels strange. Later, it becomes normal. The sound design stops noise from turning into something bigger, like protest, group shouts, or chain reactions of anger. And again, it's not an officer saying, be quiet. It's the building itself doing the job. Cameras everywhere, but almost unseen in Supermax prisons. Cameras are everywhere. At the end of hallways, near each door, above rec pens, in common spaces, in sally ports, secure entry zones. Many cameras are tiny, dark domes in the corners of ceilings. You forget they're there, but they're always working. Officers don't have to be in front of every cell. They don't need to walk every hall. They can simply watch on screens. If something happens in one part of the prison, they see it in seconds. This creates a strange feeling for inmates. You don't always see guards, but you always feel like someone might be watching. That feeling alone is a type of invisible chain. Movement paths, like a one-way system. Every time an inmate is moved, the path is planned. It's like a one-way traffic system. Which door opens, which hallway they walk through, which turn they take, where they stop, who stands guard. If another inmate needs to be moved, the path is adjusted so they never cross. This prevents surprise meetings, sudden fights, attempts to pass items, group resistance, even when only one person walks. The route is organized. It almost feels like the building is saying, you will only move where I allow you. Red zones and green zones, though inmates never hear these exact terms. Staff often think of areas as green zones, safe, regular movement spaces. Red zones, sensitive areas where movement is rare and highly controlled. Red zones might include Main control centers, certain entry points, high-level security corridors, special holding areas, inmates are kept away from red zones as much as possible. They never see the full layout of the building. The less they know about the structure, the less they can ever use it to their advantage. This is another layer of invisible control. Information itself is restricted. How the building changes behavior over time. Living in a space like this affects how you think and act. Inmates begin to talk less, move less, think before every action, follow patterns without being told they react to. The click of locks, the buzz of doors, the timing of footsteps, the rhythm of lights, the building creates a quiet pressure to comply. Not through fear alone, not through pain, but through constant quiet structure. When everything around you says, this is the only way to live here, most people stop trying to fight it. That is the power of the Supermax design. The walls don't just hold people. They shape them. Brick by brick, door by door, rule by rule. These are the invisible chains, the ones built into the building itself. The psychology of isolation, how silence becomes control. If the building shapes the body, isolation shapes the mind. Inside a Supermax prison, the most powerful form of control is not the locked door, not the restraints, not even the routine. It's the quiet. A quiet so steady, so complete, and so constant that it becomes its own environment. Most people never experience real silence. But in a Supermax, silence is one of the strongest invisible chains. It changes how you think, how you react, how you feel time, and how you understand the world around you. This chapter shows how the mind adapts, resists, and eventually bends under the weight of total isolation. A cell built to reduce sensory input, a Supermax cell, is small, simple, and intentionally uneventful. No decorations, no bright colors, no open view, no movement in sight, no meaningful sounds, no social interaction. The environment is meant to remove distractions, not to punish, but prevent chaos and maintain safety. Yet for the mind, this environment creates one feeling. You are alone with your thoughts. The brain begins to notice tiny details. The hum of the air vent, the distant buzz of an intercom, the soft click of a door locked, the faint rhythm of officer footsteps. Things that will be ignored in the outside world become major parts of the day. Time moves differently when nothing changes in a world without noise, without variety, without faces, without conversation. Time stretches. Minutes feel longer. Hours feel heavier. Days blend into each other. Some inmates describe it like this: it feels like the clock forgot about me. Or, you don't count the hours, you count the routines. The schedule becomes the only measure of time. Lights on breakfast tray, tier check, shower, rotation, recreation, slot, dinner. Lights dim when the same pattern repeats every day. Time stops feeling like a path and starts feeling like a circle. The mind looks for stimulation. Even in nothing, humans are built for stimulation. Noise, color, motion, conversation. When those things disappear, the brain tries to fill the gap. Inmates start noticing things they never cared about. The shape of the ceiling, tiny scratches on the wall, the sound of water pipes, the pattern of shadows across the floor. Some start reading everything available. Labels on soap, numbers on trays, rules on the wall. Anything to keep the mind busy. Some form routines. Push-ups and sets, pacing from wall to wall, counting tiles, mental math. Reading the same book more than once. These small activities become crucial. Because in isolation, your thoughts can feel bigger than the room itself. Silence changes how you think when there's no conversation, no arguments, no casual talk. The only voice you hear is your own. Some inmates use this to reflect. Some replay memories. Some focus on their cases. Some think about the future. But others feel the pressure of silence. Without distraction, even small worries can feel amplified. The system knows this and monitors for signs of stress or struggling. Officers use regular checks, mental health evaluations, behavior, tracking medication, monitoring not to punish, but to make sure silence doesn't harm someone. Supermax control isn't about breaking people. It's about stabilizing a high-risk environment. Routine becomes the anchor strangely. The thing that controls the inmate becomes the thing that saves him as well. Routine. The same lights, the same tray, the same movements, the same rec time. These repeated patterns create predictability. Predictability gives the mind something to hold on to. When everything else is quiet, routine becomes structure, and structure becomes mental support. Many inmates say, routine helps you survive here. Recreation time. The mind's reset button, even though recreation happens alone, it is one of the most important parts of the day. Stepping outside, even into a small pen, gives the brain what the cell does not. Natural light, open air, physical movement, a sense of space. Some men walk in circles. Some do push-ups. Some just stand and feel the sky above them. Recreation is designed to prevent isolation from turning into shutdown. It resets the mind, even if only for an hour. The power of predictable human contact, even limited human contact matters. In Supermax, contact happens in small but structured ways. The officer passing breakfast, the mental health staff checking the nurse, distributing medication, the officer calling for rec rotation. These short moments do something important. They remind the mind that the world still exists outside the cell. The system understands this. Isolation is strict, but it is not absolute. Every small interaction becomes a piece of human balance. When silence becomes comfort, not pressure, something surprising happens after months in a Supermax. Silence becomes familiar. Some inmates begin to appreciate the quiet, not as punishment, but as routine. They know when the officer will walk by, when the lights will change, when the tray will arrive, when the door will buzz, the day brings no surprises. This creates a mental stability that many never expected to find here. In this stage, inmates adapt deeply. The mind fits into routine just like the body fits into the cell. And for the prison system, this adaptation is a goal, a controlled environment where people follow structure, and structure keeps everyone safe. Isolation isn't meant to break. It's meant to control. The purpose of Supermax isolation is simple. Prevent violence, reduce chaos, protect staff, separate high-risk inmates, create predictable behavior, the silence, the routine, the stillness. These are not punishments. They are tools. Tools that keep the entire building stable without using excessive force or conflict. These are the invisible chains that shape the mind as much as the environment. They don't hurt. They don't shout. They don't push. They simply hold everything together in a space built to control even the most unpredictable situations. Control without touch. How Supermax staff maintain order if the routine controls the inmate and the building controls the environment. There's one final layer of invisible control inside a Supermax, the staff. Not in the way people imagine. Not with force, shouting, or confrontation. Supermax officers operate differently. They rely on calm, structure, communication, and professionalism. Because here's the truth. In a Supermax, control is strongest when it doesn't need to be physical. This chapter shows how officers maintain stability inside one of the most controlled environments in the world, and why their approach is so different from other prisons. The officer's role, calm over power unlike in general population prisons. Supermax officers rarely raise their voices. Their strength comes from consistency, patience, clear communication, following procedure, neutral emotional tone. When an officer walks a Supermax tier, their job isn't to dominate the space. Their job is to maintain order through predictability. Inmates know exactly what to expect from staff. Same command, same routine, same process. Same rules. As consistency reduces tension. When nothing is unpredictable, conflict becomes rare. Every action has a purpose. Staff inside a Supermax follows strict protocols for everything. Delivering meals, escorting inmates, opening doors, running tier checks, managing showers, responding to requests. These protocols exist because consistency prevents mistakes. If an officer changes a routine, it can create confusion or risk. So officers practice the same movements, the same words, the same steps over and over until they become automatic. This reduces stress for staff and reduces anxiety for inmates. Both sides benefit from the system working smoothly. Communication through the door. Most staff-inmate interaction happens through the cell door. Officers do not step inside cells during normal operations. They rarely need to. Communication is short, direct, clear, respectful, purposeful. Examples. Rec time. Tray coming through. Stand at the back wall. Move to shower. Medical on the way. The tone is steady, not aggressive, not emotional. Inmates learn that staff aren't there to argue or negotiate. They follow rules. The officer follows procedure, and control is maintained without conflict. Team movement. No officer works alone in a Supermax. Officers never escort inmates by themselves. There's always a team, one officer on each side, one behind, sometimes one observing from a distance. This isn't about intimidation. It's about safety and stability. When movements are predictable and supported by multiple staff members, unexpected situations become extremely rare. It also reassures inmates. No officer will act impulsively, and no inmate is singled out. The system protects everyone involved. Force isn't the first tool. Structure as physical force exists as a last resort, but it is almost never used. Why? Because the routines and building design remove the situations where force would be needed. Inmates are not. Gathered in groups in open yards, walking freely in hallways near objects they can use improperly in positions to surprise staff. Most interactions happen through secure doors with cameras observing everything. Force becomes unnecessary because the environment prevents the conditions that require it. This is the heart of Supermax control. The system prevents the conflict before it begins. Mental health and stability are part of control. Supermax facilities include mental health staff who work closely with officers. They watch for signs of stress, withdrawal, agitation, anxiety, depression, not to punish, but to stabilize. When inmates remain stable, the environment remains stable. The system is built on balance, not pressure. Mental health checks, medication management, and conversation through the door all support the controlled environment. The classification system, a control tool in the background, one part of Supermax control that inmates rarely think about is classification. Every month, inmate behavior is reviewed. Compliance, participation, attitude, communication rule violations, good behavior can lead to reduced restrictions over time. Poor behavior leads to continued high-level security. This creates a simple, powerful form of control. Inmates choose how strict the system stays for them. No threats, no confrontations, just choices, consequences. In a Supermax, control is not just external, it becomes internal. Officers see patterns. Not just people. Supermax officers rely on observing patterns. How an inmate moves, how often they press the call button, how they respond to routine changes in tone or body language, unusual silence, or unusual noise. They learn the normal rhythm of each inmate's day. If something breaks the pattern, the officer notices immediately. This is one reason Supermax prisons rarely see major disruptions. Problems are spotted early, before they become conflicts. Respect is a security tool, although it's rarely talked about publicly. Respect plays a major role in control. When officers treat inmates professionally and consistently, inmates respond the same way. Both sides understand the system. Inmates follow rules, officers follow procedure. The building provides a structure, the routine keeps everyone calm in some ways. Respect becomes another invisible chain. It guides behavior more effectively than fear ever could. The end of a day, reset and repeat at night. When lights dim and the facility becomes even quieter, the Supermax prepares for the next day. Officers check logs. Cameras are reviewed. Schedules are reset. Teams rotate. Doors are tested. Lights are set. The system resets itself, so the next day can run exactly the same. Not similar. Not close. Exactly the same. Because sameness is safety. Consistency is control. And predictability is power. The real secret of Supermax control. People imagine Supermax prisons as explosive, violent, or chaotic. But the truth is the opposite. The secret to control is simple. Structure, silence, routine, teamwork, professionalism, design, observation. These tools create an environment where force is rarely needed because order is built into every moment. These are the invisible chains, the ones that shape behavior, guide movement, and maintain balance. Not through fear, not through punishment, but through a system designed to control without ever touching. The place where control becomes a system. Most people imagine Supermax prisons as loud, dangerous places filled with chaos and constant conflict. But after seeing the inside, the routine, the silence, the building's design, the officer's approach, you understand something completely different. Supermax control is not loud. It is quiet, constant, precise, invisible. Inside these walls, the strongest force isn't the steel door, the restraints, or the physical limits. It's the structure that touches every moment of the day. A door that opens only when the system decides. A hallway built to prevent chaos before it begins. A quiet voice giving the same instructions every day. A cell designed to calm the environment. A routine that never bends, never breaks, never changes. Here, behavior is shaped not by punishment, but by predictability. The inmate learns to move with the routine. The routine stabilizes the environment, and the environment keeps everyone safe. No arguments, no shouting, no surprises. Just a system that runs the same way every day. A system built to hold the most unpredictable people by removing the unpredictable from the world around them. This is why Supermax prisons work. Not because they use more force, but because they rely on less. The routine becomes a rule. The environment becomes a teacher. The silence becomes a chain. The structure becomes a control. And once you understand how all these pieces fit together, you see the truth. The real power inside a Supermax isn't something you can see, but something you feel. A system of invisible chains that keeps the entire world behind those walls in balance. Thank you for watching Invisible Chains, How Control Works Inside the Supermax. If you want more realistic, deeply researched documentaries about U.S. prisons, hidden operations, and true correctional systems, Backhand Index pointing down, like, comment, and subscribe to keep this series going.